But, if catering to your party is more important than doing the right thing for the people of America, more power to you. And the U.S. is now funded through January 15th, 2014. So we're good to go at least until past the Christmas holiday rush. And the debt ceiling has been extended through February 7th, so we're good in that regard up until a little past Groundhog's Day. Interesting statistic, though, since 2001, okay, and I want this for the record, since 2001, the United States debt limit has been raised 13 times. Which leads me to ask the Republican parties, why are you opposed to a Democrat or a black man asking to raise the debt ceiling when obviously his predecessor requested it or got it at least, let's say, 8 times? Come on. Yeah, I'm going to bring up the race issue at times, because to me this is largely about race. I have never seen such admonishment toward one president. Now, I'm not saying all opposed to President Obama is about race, but I'm willing to say at least over half of the animosity or more is because of racism. But I asked the Republicans, was all this bickering, grandstanding, the billions of dollars lost and trust squandered, was it really worth the headache? Because you passed the damn budget anyway, so all you did was delay the inevitable for nearly 3 weeks. Well, partial government shutdown is finally over, and it looks like the debt ceiling will be raised for, as I said, for a temporary measure through early February. And the federal health care law, Affordable Care Act, still law of the land. So what the hell was that all about? If it's not about race, because Republicans have proposed a similar health care plan since back to Teddy Roosevelt 100 years ago, over 100 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, a black man comes along with this and, this is evil, we can't do this. What changed? Why the change in attitude? Well, it seems that the hardline House Republicans, whose opposition to the president's signature health care law set all this in motion pretty much zip, except maybe their reputation's marred. To say we as Republicans left a lot on the table would be one of the biggest understatements in American political history. That was according to Republican Senator Lindsey Graham of South Carolina. That's what he tweeted last night. Was the shutdown about the Affordable Care Act or Obamacare? I would rather keep this going. Congress passes deal to end shutdown. House Republicans support Boehner. But it's all temporary. The cliched kicking of the can. We're going to be right back in this situation again in the new year. 2 to 3 months from now, we're going to be back in the same scenario. Well, Congress will come back to fight the same battles. But for now, though, thousands of furloughed federal workers will return to work today. The U.S. can pay its bills, and an economic superpower can again boast a functioning government. Albeit a dysfunctional functioning government, but we're functioning. Pundits will conduct a post-mortem of the bitter stalemate, and the public will look ahead to what's next. So it's open for business again. Okay? Well, everything came together yesterday on a frenzy night of deadline deals, much like students cramming for midterm exams or getting those midterm papers in before the midnight deadline. Lawmakers toiled through the night, coming precariously close to hitting the midnight debt ceiling deadline. The Senate brokered a bill to end the 16-day-long shutdown and raise the debt limit. The GOP-led House passed it, and early this morning, President Obama signed it into law. But it wasn't Republicans who made it happen. I want that stated for the record. It wasn't Republicans who made this happen. A majority of that party's caucus actually voted against the measure. So even right up to the end of the night, till where we're literally at the cliff's edge, and these bastards, no, we ain't gonna pass it, no, sir. It wouldn't be the right thing to do. Well, you gotta pay the bills. You know what? We're already deep in hawk. What's another trillion? I'd like to see the U.S. get back on the plus side again. But cutting our throats in the process isn't going to do it. Because ultimately it's going to cost us more. And you saw what happened when you shut down part of the government. Our economic infrastructure was collapsing. Now, I'm not saying it's fixed, but at least it's stabilized. Well, the bill passed 285 to 144 in the House with overwhelming Democratic support and the approval of about 80 House Republicans. So 80 House Republicans did have some good sense there to do what's best for us for now. We're already on life support, folks. I acknowledge that, and I agree our government has a spending problem. But the real problem is apathetic voters, and I'll bet you in about a week, the majority of you that are throwing a hissy fit, bitch fits, won't give a shit about this. You might mention it in passing, but you won't be doing anything about it. Well, had Congress not approved a debt limit increase, the government would have started running out of money to pay its bills. Social Security checks and veterans benefits could have stopped. The markets could have gone into a tailspin. And now that Congress has approved a temporary spending plan, the government can reemerge from its partial shutdown. Nearly 1 million furloughed employees can begin coming back to work. More than 1 million others who have been working without pay will see paychecks once again, their own paychecks this time. Federal workers should expect to return to work this morning. That's according to the Office of Management and Budget. And the country will now be funded through January 15th, as I said, and the debt ceiling has been extended through February 7th. Now, the bill that passed last night doesn't address many of the contentious and complicated issues that continue to divide Democrats and Republicans, such as changes to entitlement programs to tax reform. Okay? Now, for what it's worth, the heads of the Senate and House Budget Committees, Democratic Senator Patty Murray of Washington and GOP Representative Paul Ryan of Wisconsin, are going to meet today to try to tackle these budget divides. They'll head budget negotiations intended to come up with a broader spending plan for the rest of the fiscal year 2014, which ends on September 30th. The President said, though, he's not in the mood for some of the more of the same, saying politicians have to get out of the habit of governing by crisis. And I agree. We can't do that forever. Can't always be in a panic mode to try to solve our problems. Well, there's a lot of pork in this new bill, though. A $24 billion battle. Well, the partial government shutdown that lasted 16 days came at a steep cost. S&P's estimated that it took $24 billion out of our economy. $24 billion in 16 days. So ultimately, it's costing us more money to keep things shut down than it would have been to keep things up and running. That makes this shutdown even more illogical. Yes, I know we need to get our spending under control, but shutting things down often costs more money in the long run because you got to pay these people back for the time that they sacrificed. You got to pay their benefits. Yeah, some of that money is coming back through tax revenue, through income taxes and so forth. But was it really worth it? Then there's the impact it's had on politicians' image. I could care less about politicians' image so long as they're doing the right thing. But the majority, I'm ashamed of them. Because there should have been more speaking up saying, you know what, to Republicans, the hell with you. We're going to pass this budget anyway. That's what should have been said, instead of going, okay, are they done pissing yet? I don't think they're done pissing yet. Yes, I'm mad about this. And you should be too. This is not just some guy in his bedroom lamenting about the inactivities of our Congress. This affects each and every one of us, whether you like it or not. So, we need to become more involved in the process, folks. We just can't simply sit on the sidelines like our lawmakers have and pretend like, everything's okay. Well, continuing on with this lead story today, both sides kept talking past each other, with Republicans insisting for a time that defunding, delaying, or otherwise altering the Affordable Care Act must be part of any final deal. Well, the Democrats stood firm in insisting that they'd negotiate, but only after the passage of a spending bill and legislation to raise the debt without any anti-Obamacare add-ons. Okay? Well, in the end, Democrats largely got what they wanted after some last-minute talks by Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid of Nevada and Minority Leader Mitch McConnell of Kentucky. Reid hailed the agreement he worked out with McConnell as historic, saying that in the end, political adversaries put aside their differences. Yeah, for a few minutes. McConnell said any upcoming spending deal should adhere to caps set in a 2011 law that included forced cuts known as sequestration. Okay? Well, Republicans did get a small Obamacare concession requiring that the government to confirm the eligibility of people receiving federal subsidies under the health care program. Now, what did the GOP win on the Affordable Care Act? Not much, which is what they deserved. While some Republicans, such as Tea Party favorite Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, and I'll have a soundbite from him in just a moment, claim that moral victories in energizing their movement, well, House Speaker John Boehner didn't even pretend his side came out victorious. Or rather, didn't even pretend that his side came out victorious. You know, sounds like a bad sitcom. Leave it to Boehner, doesn't it? You know, mom and dad are out of town. Well, I'm Speaker of the House now, so I'm going to cry if I don't get my way. As you can tell, I'm not a big fan of Representative Boehner of Ohio. While Cruz, despite being in the Senate, is credited with spearheading the House Republican effort to attach amendments that would dismantle or defund the Affordable Care Act. All were rejected by the Democratic-led Senate, though, and the president pledged to veto them, meaning there was virtually no chance they would ever succeed. But I commend him for trying. Republican Senator Kelly Ayotte of New Hampshire called the House GOP tactics of tying the Affordable Care Act to the shutdown legislation, quote, an ill-conceived strategy from the beginning, not a winning strategy, unquote. And I agree with that. It was a bad idea. It was never going to work because it circumvents due process. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Whether or not you like the Affordable Care Act, it did go through an extensive legislative process, highly endorsed by the president, of course. But to say that the president spearheaded this thing single-handedly, knock that crap off right now. You had your chance to voice your opinion, but Congress has the last word in that regard. And it's up to the president whether or not he'll sign that package. And he signed it into law. So it is the law of the land now, whether you like it or not. And now this is not me gloating about another Obama victory. Okay? That's just a statement of cold, hard fact. Well, Wall Street sided with relief. U.S. stocks rose yesterday on the news of an agreement. The benchmark Dow Jones Industrial Average jumped more than 200 points yesterday. However, world markets had a tepid reaction today, with markets mixed in Asia. What's next? Well, the Senate's Democratic leadership said he never wants to go through the recent turmoil ever again. But unless some meaningful changes come about in the next couple months, we're going to be back in the same situation again in January and February. Mark my words. Former House Speaker Newt Gingrich predicts Tea Party and staunch conservatives in the GOP will be more energized after not getting what they wanted, such as getting the anti-Obamacare amendments they demanded. You know, it's kind of like a little kid at the store. I want that toy. No, you can't have it. I want that toy. Well, as the president walked away from a news conference yesterday, he was asked whether he thought America would be going through this brouhaha again in a few months, and he said no. Hi, friends. I had to step away for just a little bit. There's somebody at the front door, and I'll be right back. But in the meantime, here's Herb Albert and the Tijuana Brass to keep you company, okay, while we kill time. I'll be right back.